hours on safari. Thanks again for all your amazing comments and answers to our module 2 with Neil. And it's really wonderful to have advisors that are like-minded and share our Wilderness Safari's passion for sustainability. A little bit of housekeeping with just before we begin. So I have had a couple of advisors that have asked if they can find these recordings on the Virtuoso website. And this is not the case. It is a Wilderness Safaris Academy. And we now have a page on our website where you can go to and find past recordings as well as the modules that we will be doing in future, and then any information, brochures, PDFs we're going to be loading onto this page as well. So it's open to, we opened it up to Virtuoso advisors as our partners, but any advisor is welcome to join. Anybody who wants to learn a little bit more about the intricacies of Southern Africa, as well as going on safari with us Wilderness. The next tip, housekeeping tip, is that part 4, module 4, is 4 parts, just so that you're aware of that. And so we'll be joining Africa Travel Tuesdays for 4 weeks during May and June, but we will only have one set of questions at the end of those 4 parts. Those are going to be in-depth discussions on the countries that we operate in and the sort of nitty-gritty stuff. So, and then lastly, I'd really like to make this webinar and this module as interactive as possible. So during the course of the webinar, you're going to see a little sign that says quiz time or quiz question, and I'm going to pose a question. We're going to have a competition between Graham and the advisors, and hopefully the advisors are going to win. So with me tonight is Gra or Maramba, and first up, Graham, just share with us what your name means and a little bit of history with Wilderness Safaris.
You want to know what the name Graham means, or Maramba? I think Maramba is probably the best one. So Maramba actually means catfish, and now it's got nothing to do, before we start off on the wrong legs, got nothing to do with that MTV program Catfish. But basically, when I moved to Zimbabwe 6 years ago as part of my journey with Wilderness, there were pans that were drying up, and I was tasked with trying to reinvent some of the safaris and options we had. And one of the things, being a new person, I was really eager to go and try and get things different, you know, trying to attract different people. And one of my friends had told me about how they used to go and catch catfish in these pans that were drying up, and then move them into other pans. And I mean, it's totally natural for the pans to dry up, the catfish will dig deeper and stuff. So I went through to the bosses and came up with this elaborate PowerPoint explanation of why we need to get our guests wading into these muddy pools and picking up these catfish and stuff. And then they actually said to me, Graham, have you ever tried to catch a catfish? And I hadn't. I mean, they're the slipperiest things that you can have, and I hadn't thought it through of having the guests. So all the big bosses were very impressed with my PowerPoint technique, but not so much with what what we can offer guests on safari. And I don't think I didn't realize, you know, how muddy it will get and stuff. So, you know, that's where Maramba kind of stuck, and that's the nickname they're given. And just a quick one with Wilderness, yeah. So I was sitting on a beach one day, and I'd graduated from university and a postgraduate, and thought I knew everything in the world, and I hadn't been able to land a job like most postgraduates these days. And a friend of ours said, well, why don't you go and work in Botswana? And ashamedly, coming from Africa, I hadn't really looked into Botswana or known much about it. but I went. I bought a plane ticket and I went, and I spent 3 amazing months in Botswana. And it was, yeah, it just changed my life. Like I've always loved animals, I always loved the open spaces and that. And so I started off at the very bottom, folding face towels. I got that very wrong. So my mentor had to teach me how to face towel properly. Apparently there's lines and things you have to do. And then, yeah, that was in Botswana. I was privileged to work at a few different camps. I love bouncing around the different camps to get to know the different areas and the ecosystems and the animals. And then I did so that was 5 years. Culminating in becoming the general manager of Mambo Camp, which is still some of our best years today. And then from there, it was time to leave the bush, just getting a little bit older. And yeah, moved to Cape Town for Crash Course. That's where we spent most of our time, getting up to mischief in the office with the likes of Craig's and Peters and JD's and the others, Yandisa and that. And then so did Crash Course there, and then always wanted to move back to Zimbabwe. I was born in Zimbabwe, but never really spent much time in Zimbabwe or worked as an adult. So I came to Zimbabwe, and that was just over 6 years ago, and I love it. So now I'm actually chatting to you from the beautiful city. We're a city now, not a town, of Victoria Falls. I can actually hear, I always tell people and they say come up with a different line, but it still blows my mind that I can open the window and hear the falls where I am, about 3 kilometers away. Stunning. There's so much water coming over at the moment. We've got elephants walking down the road, and the dogs will bark. You've got owls calling. It's beautiful, beautiful little place that I live. And yeah, that's where I am now.
Cool. Wow. Thank you so much. And yeah, so Graham and myself are going to take you on a safari, and it's a virtual safari. However, if you do complete all the modules and send in all your answers, then you never know, maybe you'll be joining us on an actual safari at the end of the year. Let me try and get this right. Let's turn off our webcams, Gaga, and then we'll come on back on a little bit later. Did that work? And back to the presentation. So it's basically 24 hours. Some of I've given you some timelines. They're not cast in stone, and you can see how it all works, how it's seamlessly put together. We always say expect the unexpected, and this is Africa. So first up, you're going to arrive at one of our airports in one of the countries that we operate in. This is Maun, and we actually at Maun in Botswana, we have our own check-in desk. Wilderness Air does, and your clients' names will be on the board. We have coincided our Wilderness Air flights with international flights. So the old SAA and the airbots used to arrive between 12 and 1 o'clock, and then once all the guests are there, we then go out to our Wilderness Air plane with your pilot, where he will give you a brief orientation, a brief safety talk on Wilderness Air, and the safari begins. It's part of the flying is part of the experience and part of the safari. A lot of clients haven't actually flown in small planes, so it's something quite different. And obviously the landscape is phenomenal as you're flying quite low in these planes. The airstrip often has people surprised, and I've once had a pilot have to retake a landing because of warthog crossing the airstrip. Gragra, have you ever had a situation where a pilot's had to come in to land?
Yeah, actually, so it's how I met our new, well, not our new, he was the new CEO. When the airplanes land, we don't, because they're unfenced, the airstrips are unfenced because you don't want to prevent animal movement. You know, most of the time, I mean, the planes are landing during specific windows, so you don't want to have it fenced off because it stops animals going. And a lot of the animals, like the lion here, they actually use the airstrip in the late evenings, and that nice and warm. Other animals do it as well, just to lie there. So it's not like we just tell the pilots, hey, you get to land. So you'll have usually 2 vehicles. There'll always be an airstrip clearer. That's his day job. And he'll be there with the radio, and then the guide will also be another con. And I mean, it's how I met our CEO, Keith Vincent. I was at the airstrip clearing it for the plane coming in to pick him up, and he was sitting there, and I was best dressed and trying to behave as much as possible because I had the big boss in the vehicle. And as the plane came into land, they called, is it clear? I said the airstrip's clear, and lo and behold, as I finished clicking the radio, talking to the pilot, some male Impala started walking out. And they always do it in single file. You know, the one in the front is leading because he's looking to make sure there's no danger. And so I frantically started calling the plane, and I could see him on final approach. So now I said, okay, I have to actually go and chase these Impala because the plane's going to come in. So as I turned to my left to speak to the CEO in the back, he was gone. And I thought, oh my gosh, not only is this plane going to have to do around, I've just lost the CEO as well. And he was there 30 seconds ago. But lo and behold, he had jumped down the right-hand side, and he was running down the airstrip, shouting at the Impala, waving his hands, get away, get away, get away. Yeah, so anyway, I accelerated and drove behind him to act as much as I can. The Impala ran off the airstrip. The pilot did a go around, turned, and then landed straight away, and all was well. And I said to the CEO, I said, no, I had it under control. He said, no, I know you had it under control, but I just like to be hands-on and stuff. And that was a great introduction to know that the big boss is not averse to getting his feet sandy and his hands dirty as they chase the Impala. But yeah, there's, I mean, warthog running across, you get lion chasing animals. Because it's an open area, often the prey species, the Impala and that, would like to be there because they use the open area to be able to see if a predator is coming. But it's very safe, you know.
Yeah, and so do the predators use the open space. This was just recently at Mambo, with a cheetah using the runway to get a meal. So yeah,
sure.
And then the airport, as some of our my advisors like to call it. Here is where you will meet your guide. You get to your bags will get taken by a utility vehicle. Your guide, you know, you'll get to meet the guide. He'll get to chat to you, find out where you've been, where you're going, and so your game drive begins on the way to the lodge. However, it isn't always a game drive, and during the course of this presentation, I'm going to show you a couple of little videos to just showcase or highlight these different experiences. Were myself, and it's just a phenomenal way of arriving into camp. And so up for our first question. I hope advisors are ready, and let me just get the question box up so I can see who answers first. I'd like to know, which is this lodge in Zambia?
Am I allowed to answer?
Only in 5 minutes time, Grora.
Okay.
Kathy Schultz, well done, Takaleo. Excellent, thank you so much. It is indeed, and based on the situated on the Zambezi River, one of our classic lodges. So some of the ways that you get to camp aren't always necessarily driving, but they can also be by boat. And now we're going to hop across the bridge into Zambia. Sorry, into Zimbabwe. And who knows which lodge this is? Oh, I beg your pardon. Let's do camp orientation first. Gra, can you share with us just briefly what a camp orientation deals with, highlights, and then perhaps a story about what the air horn is not meant to be used for?
No worries. That looks like Little Vumbra, I think. I was about to say it's definitely not a Zimbabwe camp. That's in Botswana. Beautiful. So
the next question's coming up.
No, I'm just camp orientation is where, so now you've obviously landed at the airstrip. You've met your guide. The guide has driven you in. Some airstrips can be 40 minutes away. Some can be 20 minutes away. Some can be 10 minutes away. So once you get into camp, that's when you meet the team. So you'll meet the camp manager, who is responsible for the camp orientation. He or she will sit you down and just go through basically a little bit of the safety. So the most important thing is obviously safety. As you can see in this picture over here, again, no fences. Our camps aren't fenced. Animals move in and out. There's some high walkways, some low walkways. In some places you've got sandy walkways and that. So it's very important to just give a quick layout of the camp and explain where everything is. The toilet to the bar, very important where the bar is, to the rooms. You let the guests know what room they are in. And then you just go through a little bit of the safety thing. So for example, during the day, you can walk by yourselves, but always expect, again, the unexpected. We do have staff around. So if there is a predator around, in the area, the staff will let you know. If there is a, there we go. If there's an elephant coming to browse nearby, the staff will let you know. But sometimes, the staff won't see everything, so you need to expect the unexpected. So if there's an animal, then you just stay where you are and you wait. You can also shout, let someone know, and then explain to guests what the air horn is. A camp orientation, sorry, I skipped that. So camp orientation also tells you about different activities you've got in camp. Some camps will have canoeing, some camps will have, helicopters, hot air balloons, so different options you've got. And then also how the day can run. The times do change in different countries and can also change in different seasons. Obviously in summer you're going to wake up a little bit earlier. In winter you're going to wake up a little bit later. Also, the manager will ask you if you've got any dietaries or any allergies again. We generally do have that because the advisors are great and they'll let us know ahead of time. But we always just ask on the ground to make sure that we're covering all bases with the guests. Then we talk about the air horn. So now what the air horn works, it's a traditional system of alerting the camp managers and the guides to any possible danger or uncomfort that you've got in the lodges. So for example, it might be 3 a.m. And you wake up and you need assistance because you're not feeling well, or you want a gin and tonic. I'm just joking, it's not for gin and tonics. But you use the air horn, and basically what it is you blow the air horn 3 times, beep, 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 and then you wait, turn your lights on immediately, and then after about 2 to 3 minutes, if you don't hear anyone say I'm coming or down the thing, you blow it again 3 times, beep, beep, beep. The reason you blow it 3 times is it's going to be very, very loud next to your ear. But if someone's sleeping, 50, 60 yards away, they might wake up and think that it's just they're in a dream and stuff. I had numerous dreams because I was so worried as a camp manager. You need to get there. I'm proud to say that I managed to respond to all the air horns, which was good. But if I go to a sports stadium now, I think I might have a little bit of PTSD because someone blows one of those air horns and I immediately get looking where I need to run. Is it room 2? Is it room 3? Where are the lights on? Meanwhile, there's people scoring a goal and the fans are celebrating.
So Graham, one of the rules that we tell guests is to always stay on the pathway. Can you share with us the reason why we say this?
So this is Mambo Camps. This is a picture I actually took, and I don't know, I'm going to name drop here very, very unashamedly. I was actually sitting next to Chelsea Handler. She was in another car, and she was giving running commentary about how she can't use the gym and stuff like that, and she was promised she could do the gym every day. She was obviously just teasing us. But these lions, this is at Mambo Camp as mentioned, so it's on a teardrop island, and these lions would actually come in and flush any animals that were there. This is a young male. You can tell by the tufts of hair growing down his back. His mane's quite not formed yet, and you can see the small spots still on his lower legs, so sub-adult. And him and his brother, if I'm not mistaken, they actually managed to walk on at a low part of the camp where the boardwalk was quite low to the ground. They wandered on there, and then they didn't get off, and they just carried on walking and carried on walking. And obviously it was a safe situation because we radioed at both ends of the camp. This is the boardwalk that connects Little Mambo to main Mambo, and so people were locking themselves in the camps while these guys. And then he lay down and slept. And now we're thinking, geez, how are we going to get the staff from main camp to Little Mambo? How are we going to get the food? How are the guests going to get back? Like, it was a bit of a chaotic thing. So again, you got to expect the unexpected. So when someone says stick to the boardwalk, sometimes you might not want to stick to the boardwalk, but 99.99% of the time, it's a good idea.
Sure. Thank you, Graham. And here's our next quiz question. So back in Zimbabwe, and the reason I chose this slide is it showcases social distancing really well and how far apart the lodges are. Also the boardwalks. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gaga, but I think they're made of some recycled substance.
Correct. Yeah. So this one it's a mix between recycled plastic and a little bit of wood. Quite interesting here is that it actually, with the different temperatures we go through, in winter it can get really cold, and summer can get really hot. And as you can see here, there's no shade, so it actually it expands quite a bit. So it's very interesting. It's quite an amazing technology that allows for it. So yeah, wherever possible, we try and use recycled, and obviously it is always sustainable. So where you will see wood, it is not wood that we've gone and chopped down from a national park or an exquisite tree or something like that. We've got it taken it from subsistence farmed.
Fantastic. And Gloria, well done. She's already answered the question. It is Lanquasha. Graham, you're 2 down.
Sorry, I thought the question was how many planks did we use on those, and the answer was 768. To be honest, I can't see the chat box. I mean, I don't know when I can start answering. I don't know if it's sending to...
No, you won't be able to see you won't be able to see the chat box, but I'll give you a couple of seconds. Well, I'll give the advisors a couple of seconds to answer before you answer, so that they can have,
What I can also do is just shout ostrich eggs, pillow, bed, in case the question is one of those.
So and then along the boardwalk, your somebody from the camp will show you your room orientation, and I wanted to show you a little snippet of a view from Vumbra. It's honestly, it was never designed to be on a webinar, but it's just me, and I took it to show the family what our lodges look like. So enjoy this view of Vumbra. Wide open spaces, no fences, hippo right there at the lodge. It truly is an incredible experience.
Hands down, I think the best sunrises, sorry Al to jump in, is at Vumbra. That's one of the camps that I was fortunate to work at, and the early mornings are always made better because it's east facing and you see this beautiful orange start to rise and smell of coffee, and then the hippos making noise and stuff. Brilliant. Yeah. Brings back wonderful memories.
Indeed. So and then after siesta time, you will make your way to the main area for high tea and some yummy, savory and sweet delights. Get to know your guide a little better, and then it's off on your afternoon activity. And this afternoon, we're going to do a game drive. Tomorrow morning, we'll be doing various other, we'll showcase various other experiences and different things that you can do on safari. As I said at the beginning, it's not just about the game drives. But Graga, share with us, or please tell the advisors that they're not actually going to get as wet as you are.
Yeah, no. So this was taken in Zimbabwe towards the end of last year when the rains were coming. It was beautiful, and I think it's Netsai and Humber, the dominant males of the Mbizapan area in Wangi. And yeah, I had a photographer with me, so definitely was trying to pull out all the stops. And as we found the lions, so we also found the first rains of the season, which is really nice because you've been waiting, through the dry season. It's good, but the vehicle's designed to keep you dry. I just didn't have time to throw on a nice warm poncho and a rain jacket. Although in hindsight, I didn't think it was going to rain that much. Now, if I could do things differently, I would definitely. But you've got a beautiful roof over the top. So your guide can position you well enough that you don't get as wet as I was there. I think that shirt's still been on the line since December, still hasn't been able to dry. But yeah, it's one of those things where you're in Africa, you're out in the open spaces, but the vehicles, the guide, you've got everything to keep you dry, to keep you warm. Even in winter, in the early morning drives, you can have hot water bottles, bush babies as we call them. Yeah, so don't worry, you won't get as wet as I got there.
And then game viewing can start right at camp, correct?
Yeah, spot on. Again, our camps aren't just randomly built in an area where someone thought it's a good idea to build it because they felt that way. They are built near water holes, or rivers or crossings, etc. So yeah, I mean, game drive. Some of our guests actually just say, "Hey, I've been on a 10-day safari and I'm on day 8 and 9 type thing, and I just want to actually sit." And you can see, this is at Linkwasha over here. The previous picture was taken at Davison's camp in Wangi, Zimbabwe. Big shout out to Zimbabwe there. But wherever you are, you can be in Mambo in Botswana. You can be in Basati in Rwanda, and you'll still be able to see some animals and wildlife that are coming in and around. It's beautiful. And sometimes you just need to go a little bit slower on safari. You don't need to jump in on every game drive or activity.
Absolutely. And one of my best wildlife sightings was of a wild dog kill in camp in King's Pool. It was right at the pool. What's been one of yours, Graham?
Okay, so my camera's not on, so it's fine. So it was actually at Savuti. I was leading a trip, hosting some agents, which was quite nice. Some advisors, as you call them, virtuoso. I had a group of Indian agents traveling with me, and I'd gone to the bathroom actually, and I was in the bathroom early morning, and a wild dog ran in front chasing impala. And so you see the impala run past, and it gets strange. And you see, because we got loos with views, as you know, I'll be sitting in there. The toilet doesn't face, backwards. You're sitting facing outwards. So anyway,
Indeed.
I had my cup of coffee there, and there was impala, and then there was wild dog, and then wild dog, and then wild dog. So I had to quickly hurry up to jump in the car. They were ready to go, and they were shouting, "Graham, come!" But I had front row seat, best seat in the house. Excuse the pun.
No, often is the case. Right, and I think we're up for a quiz question. If I have my slides correctly, yes. So, who can tell me who this is? So she's a leopard. She has a name. Some of the advisors should know her from a while ago. She was a movie star. And Kathy, again, Legadima, well done. She starred in The Eye of the Leopard, a movie. If you haven't watched it, it's a great movie, and it showcases a lot of the filming was done in one of our concessions. So that's Legadima, and I was very fortunate to see her in oh gosh, I think it was 2012. And then another one. Can anybody remember who this lioness is? Denise, well done. So this is Funny Face or Scarface, and there's the most incredible story that goes with her. I had an advisor that came on a fam trip with me, and we saw Funny Face in the Abu concession, and she had 3 cubs. And the guide they weren't entirely sure what had happened to her jaw. She may have been kicked by something, they're not sure. But she was still able to reproduce and to hunt and hunt for her cubs. So an all-round good mother, and it didn't seem to affect her hunting ability or the raising of her cubs. And blow me down, 3 years later, the same advisor joins me on a fam, and where we see lioness in Vumbra concession. And she says to the guide, she says, "Isn't that Funny Face?" And he was blown away because he didn't realize that other people learn the names of the animals, and that is, you might be wondering why I'm showing you individual animals, but it speaks to how personal your trip becomes with us. And our guides know some animals by name, and they share the lives of these animals with you. So much so that when you revisit, you recognize an individual. It also shows how close you can get to the wildlife and how relaxed they are. And this is through a process called habituation, which is governed first and foremost by the animal's well-being. Gogo, can you share a little bit about this process with us, the habituation?
So, sorry, I did lose you a little bit on the thing there. So we're just talking about habituation of animals in terms of, I lost audio, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about habituation of animals in terms of being close to game viewers and that.
Yes, and also, you know, how relaxed our animals are, and how close one can get, and the reason behind this, with the animal's well-being front and center.
So there's a few variables that come into play, but the first thing is we always tell the guests, don't think that the animals are, you know, relaxed and cuddly and stuff. I mean, they look cuddly. If someone were to jump out of the vehicle at this stage with that female lioness and the 3 younger ones around, I would say there's a very good chance that that person is not going to survive. All animals have got a fight and flight instinct, and obviously lions and some of the predators are more of a fight rather than a flight versus the prey species. So even though the animals look relaxed and calm around the vehicles, they're still very wild. And it is always a dangerous situation where the guide is always monitoring. So a guide can be talking about the gestation period of a lioness, etc., and what they feed on and the names and stuff, but he's watching for telltale signs, be it the ears, be it the animal's body language, be it the tail and stuff like that. And over the years, we had numerous guests say, "Oh no, these animals are tame and soft and stuff," and then suddenly an impala would walk around the corner, or a warthog, and these lions would turn into these cuddly teddy bears and to killing machines, and people would get quite a fright. So the reason why they can be so, we can get so close to them, and that is we are in private concessions wherever we operate. So you don't have every Tom, Dick, and Harry driving in their own vehicle with their own rules, pushing in front, driving off-road, scaring, throwing things at the animals, hooting, making noise. Our guides have to obviously abide by a certain code of conduct. They have to have their national guides license from wherever they are operating, be it Zimbabwe, Zambia, Namibia, etc. And then they go by a wilderness code of conduct as well, an ethics code, whereby the animals are obviously revered. And, you know, these are different generations of lions that we're seeing, different generations of leopard. But when you do come across a new pride, for example, in the Busanga Plains up in northern Zambia, you can come across a nomadic male lion or nomadic pride that's come into the area because it's so rich with food and water. And you'll instantly see that they are a little bit scared. And then it takes time, you know, the trust has to be won. The guides aren't driving up to them and revving and talking loud and stuff. He'll say, listen, we're not going to get too close to this pride. We're going to stay back and stuff. And it's really interesting. And I'll use Legadima if that's okay as an example. So she obviously had a film crew that followed her around a lot. And so she became habituated, realizing that this vehicle and these people are not actually there to harm her. So what happens is when she gets older and she has her own cubs, when her cubs are first seen, and we're fortunate enough sometimes to come in and stumble across cubs for the first time, they would get up, like the cub would see the car and instinct, they'd run and hide because they're small, so they've got a flight. Little cub's not going to have a fight system in it yet. They would run and hide instantly. And only once they would see mom relaxed and lying in the sun and rolling over like she's doing here and fast asleep, and the cub starts to say, hey, if mom's okay with the vehicle, I'm okay with the vehicle, and then would actually, you know, start to get a bit more used to it. And the same with the lions and stuff. But it just takes that one instance. If a guy stood up and shouted or blew an air horn or pushed the hooter, you know, the horn in the car, we take the horns out and we disconnect them because we don't want to scare them. That would then ruin that trust, and you'd go back to the beginning again. So that's why we actually can get close to animals. If you look at quickly, sorry, I know I'm blabbering on here, but if you look at, we've just gone into the Magashi in Rwanda, for example, and Magashi and Akagera National Park. So we actually employed, I mean, they must have had such a cool job, employed some guides to go and sit with leopards so they could get habituated. You know, you don't want to open a camp in a really remote national park that doesn't have many tourists. And then
Sure.
you know, we sell it, and the advisors sell it to the guests, and the guests don't see a leopard because the leopard hears a car and disappears. So these guys, for months on end before camp opened, would drive out, you know, for 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day and sit with leopards, so the leopard would get habituated. It's not changing the dynamic of a leopard. Like a leopard's not going to be habituated around the car, and a lion will come around and attack it, or an impala and stuff. They always maintain that fight or flight, and they always are aware, but it just does allow for the animals to be relaxed around the guests, and the guests and the guides can then obviously view and witness them from the comfort of the car.
Great, thank you. And then, a little video that I took at Little Makololo. It's certainly an experience to behold, and it's at a blind. There is nothing between myself and the elephant other than fresh air. There is a little roof structure and 4 little poles. And what happens is the elephants come to the water hole and they have a mud bath, and they play, and they spray themselves with mud, and some of them, the younger ones, will lie down and roll in the mud, and then they know where the fresh water is because it's pumped from underground. So they come right up to the log pile, hide, and they drink the fresh water. I got carried away with the video because I was so inspired, and so I'm not going to show the whole thing. It's a long video, but you can always watch it afterwards. So enjoy. So that's just a little snippet, and one of the experiences that you can have at Little Makololo, also in Wangi. Next up, who can, oh wait, I've got to open my questions box. Who can tell me what this is? Gaga, you can answer if you like. And
It is a hyena, spotted hyena for extra points.
ooh, and what is a group of hyena called? The collective noun or a group of hyena? Anyone know what that's called? Finn. Well done. A clan. Excellent. So 1 to Graham, 4 to the advisors. Come on, Gaga.
A stench. We should call them a stench of hyena because they can be really smelly. But one of my favorite creatures. I mean, the whole family system and how they live and stuff is beautiful. So I'm not going to go into it because I'll steal all of Al's screen time here. But go and have a Google, sit on Wikipedia, and enjoy. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Learn a little bit about them. Lion King unfortunately gave them a bit of a bad rep. But yeah, one of the most amazing and important species in the African bush and even elsewhere.
I agree. They can also be called. They're also known as a cackle, which is lovely because it goes with some of the noises that they make. And I'm often asked, where's the best place to go on safari? And the Okavango Delta is considered largely to be one of the best wildlife safari experiences. What it's known for is the flooding or the inundation. And I was very, very fortunate enough to see this with my own eyes. And what happens is in our winter, in May to September, the Delta floods, and we will go into this in quite a bit more detail in our country webinars next month. But the locals have a small little ceremony when the floods arrive. You go to the water's edge and you place each foot in the water, and then you place your hands in the water and you tap gently on your face, and then everybody shouts Pula. And Pula is synonymous with celebration. So it's used when you're saying cheers for sundowners and drinks. Pula means rain, and Pula is actually also the currency. So everything that has to do with life and celebration. And we did this little ceremony with our guide. And with the flooding or the inundation comes these unusual experiences that you can witness. For example, lions swimming, or lionesses teaching their cubs to cross the rivers, but also to be wary. And in this photo shoot, actually, one of the cubs hadn't wanted to get into the water, so they had to go back and fetch the one cub. And then other unusual sightings that one can see on safari. Often, almost everybody wants to see a kill. And while it's an incredible sight to actually see the predators take down their prey and just how efficient they are, it isn't the movies, and it does affect people in different ways. So our guides are very astute. They sometimes ask the clients if they know of a kill in the area, and they'll sometimes ask clients whether they want to actually go and see it or not. And they generally gauge the group of clients from vehicle to vehicle. Which brings me on to my next video. And no, it's not a lion kill, but it is an interaction. So watch this and see the interaction of the elephant and the hippo.
How great is this?
It's pretty great.
The hippos are younger than me. African salute. trying to tease those hippos, huh?
That brings me on to when I describe it's not about a drive, but it's about the game viewing experience. So it's not about going, seeing what you can see, ticking it off on a list and moving on. It's about watching the animals and their behavior and the interactions. And I mean, this was just a great thing. We were actually on a boat, and it was a young bull elephant, and he was just like testing the waters with with the hippo. So it's not the drive, but it's about the interaction with the wildlife that and the animals in their completely natural environment. Quiz time. Who can tell me what this is and what is it doing? Dung beetle. Diane, well done. Excellent. Gaga, you sleeping?
She beat me to it. I counted. I counted 10, and I got to 8, and I was about to say it there. But the dung beetle also looks like it's sleeping with its head in the sand. It's pulling an ostrich.
So, Gaga, tell us what it's doing here.
So that dung beetle, that's would most likely be elephant dung. So manure that it's collected. It's rolled into this beautiful ball, and then is taking that to a burrow under the ground, and it's going to lay its eggs in it. So there's lots of different species, hundreds and hundreds of different species of dung beetles actually. Some will lay their eggs in a ball like that and bury it. So then when the young hatch, they can eat. Others will come quickly and hijack that and then lay their eggs in that. So they might not have actually rolled that ball. So there's various different species. Again, I'm not going to steal Al's screen time, so you can go and Google some of them. But basically, what it's doing is it's maneuvering the ball to a place it's going to go, and they can actually use the stars in that to navigate. Very interesting, because they always seem to be going in the right spot. If you do find one in safari, you must stop and just watch and mesmerize how big the dung ball is compared to the beetle, and how they keep going in the right direction by using different navigational points. Celestial.
We actually did that. One of my agents on a farm trip asked the guide, how long does it take her? And he said, well, I don't know. Let's watch and see. And it took her 25 minutes. We watched her while she rolled her ball, dug it, and buried it. So yeah. So it's not just about the big stuff, but it's also about the small stuff as well. Another question. So anybody who's been on safari with me knows that this Taryn, well done. Gra still counting.
10. Armadillo. No, I'm joking. Pangolin. Did she say pangolin?
Pangolin.
Ah, she
Anybody
got it.
that's been on safari with me has, your guide asks you, well, what do you want to see on safari? And I always say pangolin. And we did actually get to see one a couple of years ago. So yes, a very, very, very special sighting.
I'm still yet to see one, Al. Yeah.
Wow. Well, there you go. Yeah. It was a very, very special sighting. So let's just have a little bit of lions going into sunset as our afternoon drive comes to a close. And you can see how close we are. They literally rub up against the vehicle. After that, your guide will look for a safe spot to have sundowners, and whether they are like this pre the pandemic or like this now, we have everything covered for your clients. And after sundowners, we head back. One of the differences with being in a concession as opposed to a national park is that in most of our concessions, we can actually do night drives. And you can see different animals on the night drives, and some of the animals, like lion, actually act very differently at nighttime compared to daytime. Gragra, the next couple of slides, can you talk us through the evening activity or routine?
Yes, not a problem. Am I on mute still?
Nope, you're there. So
sorry,
dinner.
I've clicked something and I'm on sound check for some reason. 1 second, sorry.
I can hear you.
Okay, there we go. Dinner, Dumatau, 8 o'clock. I'm back.
Yeah.
So yeah, once you come back from your evening drive, you're generally met with a nice warm towel. If it's a cooler evening, or a cold towel if it's a warm evening. You can choose to go back to your tent to freshen up. That's what most people would do. If you've got a little bit of time, the manager will say, hey, what time dinner's going to start? You know, dinner is generally set around 8 o'clock, but sometimes you get people that want to eat a little bit later or a little bit earlier if you've got kids, so the camp can hustle a little bit. Remember, it's nighttime, generally speaking, so you have to be escorted back to your room. You tell the guide what time you want to be picked up, and then they'll come and pick you up, and then you head back to dinner. Some people often get there a little bit early to have a drink around the campfire in the beginning, and then they'll have their dinner. We are shifting more towards COVID times now, where we're not going to have these big tables with everyone sitting around, which was one of my favorite times in the bush, because you get to learn about lots of people and meet different people. So now we'll be having different groups will be allocated their tables and their waiters and that. But then afterwards you can sit around a fire, socially distanced, of course, in the open air, beautiful, and that's where you really get to know people. You really get to know your guide, your manager. Sometimes the waiter might come past and guests will have questions for him. Where does he come from? How did he start in this industry? And that he'll sit down and have a chat. So I mean, some people drink sparkling water. Some people will be asking for amarula, which is a delicious, almost like a Kahlua, but 1,000 times better, made in Africa. And yeah, so some of the fireside stories used to go on really late. I had a few times where guests would keep us up until, because you have to stay up with the guests. You've got to walk them to their room. You can't just leave them, knock off, and then they disappear into the Linyanti and the next day. But so some people would stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning. They say, hey Graham, it's really late. I'm not going to go out on the game drive in the morning, so I'm just going to sleep in. You can put a do not disturb on my room. But you still have to, as the camp manager, be up, an hour and a half later to wake up the other guests who go to bed early.
Yeah. And then morning comes around very quickly. And wake up call is again either 5 o'clock in summer or 5:30 in winter. And once it's light, you make your way through to the main area for breakfast. And then it's the next day's activities. And I want to show you 2 short little videos. I do see we're going to go over our time, but I hope you're all enjoying the safari with Graham and I. The first one's a makoro, which is like a dugout canoe, and it's the way the locals used to move around the delta, and now we've adopted that as an experience. And then another activity that you can do is tree planting.
dear.
No, no, it's all right. Just go underneath.
Oh dear.
It's wet. Just
Hello, tree.
don't worry. Don't worry.
Oh dear.
Don't worry.
Oh, nice reach.
Okay. Nice one there. Just hold it. Then make sure all this goes in there. Squish it.
Oh, it's plastic.
One of my favorite quotes is the true meaning of life is to plant trees whose shade you never will expect to sit under. And there's obviously a far deeper meaning to this, but it also speaks directly to wilderness safari's just cause. And then you can walk with the rhinos at Takalea, and you can also do a sleep out. Gragra, share with us the Linkwasha sleep out in Zimbabwe.
So the Linkwasha sleep out, that's what we can see over there. And it's situated at Scott's Pan, so it's actually overlooking in front of the game viewer there. You can see a bit of water. So it's, again, not just plonked in the middle of nowhere. It's situated at a very active water source where animals are coming in 24/7, you know, to have a drink. Generally, you know, there's different options, but the best option is to have a private vehicle. Then what you do is you go out on your game drive, come back to camp, you can freshen up, go and shower, have a nice meal, jump back to your room, put your pajamas on, and then you'll jump back in the vehicle with your guide and head out. The camp staff would have made your bed up on that platform there. So on the, as you look at that screen on your left-hand side at the top, is actually the seating area. So there'll be a little fire lit there. On the right-hand side with the cover is the bedroom area and a bathroom. And it's all sealed off, so nothing can actually go up those stairs. You can't see, there's a little electric wire over there at the base. And you get to spend a night under the stars. I mean, it's amazing what you can actually see, even though it's dark, once your eyes start to adjust. And it's just, I mean, it's billions of stars. It's just spectacular, spectacular. The guide does stay nearby, so he'll be about 100 yards away, so it's nice and private for you. But if you do need any assistance, or you're feeling uncomfortable, or if out of the blue it decides the wind pick up or too cold or something like that, you just give a little bit of a holler and he will come out. Yeah, and then you wake up in the morning, back in the vehicle, leave everything as is. You don't have to tidy anything up, which is nice. Get back to camp, have something to eat, freshen up, and either head back to the airstrip and take your flight out if you want, or if you've got the rest of the day, you know, go on another activity. It really is a spectacular thing. You know, a lot of people see it in the day, I think, I'm not sure if I'll do it. Once they do it at night, you suddenly, when it's quiet and your body's calm and you're going through the thoughts and you're with a loved one or with a friend, you just start to realize how small and insignificant we actually are on this planet, but how privileged we are to be in such a beautiful place.
Yeah, it's an exceptional experience, and I recommend it to everybody and anybody that goes on safari. If there is a lodge that has a sleep out, you should definitely experience it.
Oh, one of the
Quiz
comments, sorry to jump in there before the quiz, just to give me a bit more time to decide what animals those are. No, is one of the comments that one of the guests said to me, like they had some people spend a night at the sleep out, and they came back, you know, you want to check on them and say, hey, how was it? Like the lady said, I hardly slept, and I was going to be like, oh, she's going to say it was too cold, it was too windy. You know, there's a mosquito net, so I know there's no issue with mosquitoes. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. And she said, no, it was the best night I've ever had in my life. We sat up listening to elephant, trying to identify sounds. A lot of sounds that animals make that we don't realize we don't know. Like, I mean, if one of these guys grunted, you know, you wouldn't be able to you have to learn it. You know, even an elephant makes that, you know, that deep, that noise that comes from the stomach. You know, I believe they used it in Jurassic Park for the T-Rex. Yeah. So people hear that and they don't know. So these guests just loved it. I mean, they spent most of their night awake, listening and, you know, chatting about, what do you think that was? It was, ask the guide in the morning. And I thought she was going to be upset with us, but she loved it.
I've actually had agents also on a farm that have gone and done the sleep out, and the same thing. They didn't sleep at all, listening to the sounds and just talking. And as you say, you know, realizing just how insignificant we are in this great big world of ours. So I've had already some people guess, and Karen, you're the first name that I saw. It's a wildebeest, or also known as a gnu. Does anyone know if it belongs to the antelope family or not. Gaga, you have to count 8 seconds. Yes, Danielle, well
2,
done. It
3.
does indeed. So it's like 8-2 at the moment. Gosh.
I'm getting beaten. Maybe can I cut down to 5 seconds, because you've got some very sharp people in the audience there. I'm going to cut it down to 5 seconds.
Okay, 5 seconds. How many vertebrae are there in the necks of giraffe?
I'm going to answer question number 2 in 3, 2, 1.
No.
I actually don't know how many vertebrae. This giraffe looks like it's missing a few because its neck's a little bit curved.
It does. It does. But they're the same as a human's, believe it or not.
Yeah, just bigger.
And just bigger, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've got a tower of giraffe, which
journey.
is correct. A tower or a journey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Towers when they're standing still, I believe, and a journey is when they
correct.
It's when they're on the move.
Correct. And then before you know it, it's time to head back to camp, back to your lodge, freshen up, maybe have a shower, eat again, because some of your guides will tell you that it's really important to eat on safari. The more you eat, the more you see. And that is a true guide quote. And then you head out in your vehicle to your plane for your next lodge. And then there's just one more video that I'd like to share with you, which sort of encompasses all of what we've been speaking about. It's on Zimbabwe. There we go. I'm going to end it there because I know we're over the hour. Let's bring our webcams back, Gragra, if I can do that. Yay! And let me see if there are any questions at all. Remember how to open this. Gragra, help me out here.
On the right-hand side, you should see audio, webcam, chat. If you click on chat, it should pop up there.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Excellent.
Do I get 7 points for that?
No, you could get 6. So the advisors win. Well done. Yay. Okay, let's have a quick look at the, I think Carl's been answering some questions for us. That's great. So let me have a look. Simon.
I think Simon's been answering the questions.
I think Simon has been answering some questions. Okay. Oh, yes, he has. Thank you, Simon. Okay, so the videos, if you couldn't hear the sound, then they will be part of the recording afterwards. So don't worry about that. How many people were in the hide with you?
That was at Little Makalolo when you took the video.
So right, so yeah. So Simon says 6. It comfortably fits 6. That's correct. I think Simon's answered all of our questions. That's marvelous. Thanks, bye. Yeah. So no other questions. Thank you everybody for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that 24 hours on safari. It's made me very, very homesick for the bush, which I think it's done for Graham as well. And we will be sending out. Oh, if you can please download. Let me just go to that slide. If you can please download our agent's manual, which you can find here or on the website. If you look up on the website and you type in Wilderness Safari's agent manual, you'll be able to download this. You can download it to your laptop or mobile, and there'll be some questions coming out of the agent manual for this module. And then just a refresher and a date of the next module, 4 parts. Gaga will be back with us to chat about Zimbabwe and Zambia. And then there'll be one on Botswana, one on Namibia, and one on Rwanda. And I promise we won't go over the allotted time. Those should be quite short. And then right at the end of those 4 parts, we will have questions on all 4 parts as one set of questions. So that's what you've got to look forward to for your next Choose Africa Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining, both Graham and I. Bye for now.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.